What is going on YouTube? My name is Cryo099 and today I'm going to be bringing you a video that I was supposed to do last week, but I had a bit of delay on the postage and my delivery didn't come till yesterday, and then when I tried recording yesterday the video just died. It just died on me. So I tried doing it yesterday, it just died, it didn't happen. So today it's going to be an opening of the new Freezing Change structure deck. A lot of people have already seen this with other YouTubers doing it and all, but I'm really looking forward to this as like a fun casual deck. And the reason why is because I've actually liked ice barriers, for a while, but because they could never really make their own synchros and stuff, they wasn't very good in the past. But with this, with the new Trishula and the reprints we get and some of the other new cards we get, I think it is going to be quite a good deck. And I did actually run this on a tournament on Sunday online, and we did fairly well actually. It was just sort of a free to enter tournament that someone did that I know. So I entered it with a deck I made with just pure ice barriers, and it did do quite well. So without further ado then, let's get into the opening, and I don't need to open that one because here's one I made earlier. We already have one opened up, so of course you get your paper playmat and the cards as well. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. So I'm just going to move the cards to the side while we talk about the playmat. Of course, with every other structure deck you get in this game, you get, of course, the paper playmat with some of the monsters. So there we've got the new Trishula, we've got Bionic, and we've got Yugioh, which I'm surprised they didn't put DeLorean, Tiger King the Ice Barrier. I'm surprised he's not on it. And at the back, of course, you get like the, shall we say, the help with the deck, what it can do, what you can do with it, and then of course some of the extras as well, like Egyptian God Slime and Metal Reflex Slime. You've got stuff like Zeus on there, and just a few others from the recent sets that can actually help, or might just buff it, give it that bit of a buff. But I think this deck is going to be quite amusing, quite fun to run. Now, I am waiting for some more of the extra deck cards to come before I can actually do the sort of fun casual deck profile that I want to do. So I have to wait for them to come, unfortunately. And with post at the moment, I don't know how long it's going to be. So without further ado then, the first one we've got set up here then is Trishula, Zero Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Of course, it's the new Trishula. Its artwork looks amazing, but its effect is really good. When it's synchro summoned, you banish 3 cards your opponent controls. Then when it's sent to the graveyard, if I'm not mistaken, 2 seconds. If the synchro summoned card in its owner's control is destroyed by opponent's card, so by battle or card effect, then you get to special summon the original Trishula. It has 3300 attack, and then it negates their effects and halves the attack of all your opponent's monsters, so it's really good. Next up then, probably my favourite ice barrier is the DeLorean Tiger King of the Ice Barrier. Now what is funny with this is, if I'm not mistaken, don't sit there and blow up the comments if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is actually the OCG printing. What I mean by that is the effect is actually the OCG, not the TCG, because it was a once per turn, not you can only use the effect of him once per turn. So it was a soft once per turn, not a hard once per turn. Most people know what he does, and then of course you get your Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, the original. Everyone knows what he does, he's been out for ages, and he's limited, same with DeLorean. But just before I go on to it, I think DeLorean might actually come back now that we've got the hard once per turn. I'm not 100, I'm not saying guaranteed, but for me, I think it will come back now. So next up then, you get your Yugioh, as I like to call him. Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Very simple. Once per turn, discard 2 cards, destroy the targets. You can target the same number of cards, so not just monsters, but yeah, pretty good. And then of course you get your Bionic. Everyone knows what Brio does. Everyone knows what Bionic does. So that's it then for the extra deck for this deck. Well, for the structure anyway. Next up then, you've got your Revealer. Probably one of the best cards out of this set, to be honest. And that is because if you control another Ice Barrier monster, your opponent cannot tribute summon. I know a lot of people saying, well, you don't really tribute summon, but if you're going against stuff like Monarchs, for an example, you really do want to stop them tribute summon, because if not, they can go into domain, get a tribute summon, locks you out of your extra deck. So it's really, really good to get there. Also, it's really easy to do that because you can discard a card and then special summon an Ice Barrier tuner from your deck. So you get to special summon it. And then, of course, if you're using an effect which you would discard or send a card from your hand to the graveyard, you can banish this card instead. So that's really, really good. Next up then is Speaker of the Ice Barriers. Another really, apologies for the glow, it's my light. I can't do anything about it, unfortunately, apart from having it maybe there. But then you don't really, yeah, you get to see it, I suppose. So Speaker of the Ice Barrier, again, is one of these cards that is really, really helpful. Because if you control another Ice Barrier, defense position monsters your opponent control cannot change their battle position. So that's really, really good with one of the trap cards you get in this deck. I know I'm going to butcher its name, but we'll get on with that in a minute. But not only that as well, but if once per turn, if I'm not mistaken, once per turn, if you control another Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Oh, excuse me. I don't know what's going on with my throat or anything. I just cough a lot. But anyway, and then you can banish her from the graveyard to create a token. So really, really good. Sujin of the Ice Barrier. Really, I use this quite a lot because of another card you get in this. You contribute this card, special summon a level 5 or higher monster from your hand. Well, Ice Barrier. Of course, all Ice Barriers, why wouldn't you? If this card is in your graveyard except the turn it was sent there, you can target one level 3 or lower water monster you control, reduce its level, or higher, sorry, level 3 or higher. Once you control, reduce its level by exactly 2 and special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. So it's really, really good because I use it with one of the tuners, which I'll get onto in a minute. Send him from the deck to the graveyard to create a level 2, go into DeLorean, and that lot, or some of the other cards that I'm waiting for, and then I get to bring him back next turn. So next up then, we've got Winds of the Ice Barrier. Probably the best spell card in this deck, to be honest. Very close first, I would have to say. Because Winds of the Ice Barrier is you contribute any number of Ice Barrier monsters you want, and then special summon from your deck that many level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monsters with different names from each other. So if you have two, say if you have Speaker and Sujin, tribute them, you can bring out Revealer and say another Ice Barrier monster, and then you can use Revealer's effect. So it's really, really good. And then during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent from the field to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your Ice Barrier monsters that is banished or in the graveyard, add it to your hand so you can use it with Speaker, banish her, create a token, use this, bring Speaker back to your hand, and then re-summon it because you have an Ice Barrier monster on the field, you can special summon it. So yeah, probably the best spell card in this deck. Excuse me. So next up then we've got Hexa Spirit of the Ice Barrier. This was the tuner I was on about with Sujin. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, monsters your opponent controls loses 500 attack. We really don't care about that. Yeah, I mean it's 500 attack and defense, it can help, but most people don't really care about attack points. During your main phase, you can send one level 3 or lower Ice Barrier monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes the same as the monsters until the end of this turn. You can only use it once per turn. It's hard once per turn. So what I like about Hexa Spirit is you can send Sujin to the graveyard, create a level 2, I'll explain the combo. Revealer, discard, summon Hexa, Hexa's effect, ditch Sujin. Sujin becomes, is in the graveyard set up. Hexa Spirit becomes level 2, you can make synchro plays or, other stuff as well. So that's why I like using them, it's really, really good. Next up then, probably the best support card I would say for this deck. There's monster-wise, so what I mean by that is probably the best monster you get that can help you if you really need to set something up. General Wind of the Ice Barrier. Spell and traps sent from the field to your opponent's graveyard are banished. So that's really, really good if you're running against stuff like Phantom Knights that want the Fog Blade and stuff inside the graveyard ready. I know the monsters do the same, but spells and traps can do stuff, and as well Eldritch, if I'm not mistaken, also like spells and the traps or spells in the graveyard as well. So that can be helpful. But as well, if your opponent controls a monster and you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card and then add, if this card is normal or special summons, you can add one Ice Barrier spell or trap from your hand. So you can special summon it, bring back Winds, and then use Winds to get rid of him if you wanted to create Revealer, discard and stuff like that. So he's really, really good. This one I'm iffy on, but it's General Gunard of the Ice Barrier. During your main phase, you can normal summon one Ice Barrier monster in addition to your normal summon / set. The problem is he takes 2, unless you can somehow or special summon him from the graveyard or from your hand or whichever way, he's going to need to be tribute summoned. And that's the problem. Yeah, I mean, he's got 2800 attack, so he's pretty beefy, but you get an additional normal summon with him. Same as this one, General Gantala. Once per turn during your main end phase, you can target one Ice Barrier monster in your graveyard, accept himself, and special summon it. So you could use him with your other general as well. So end phase, special summon him. Next turn, you get an additional normal summon. That's if your opponent hasn't taken it out. Let's see. Next up, then we've got Medium of the Ice Barrier. There we go. A little bit higher. There we go. If your opponent controls 4 or more cards than you do, you can special summon this card from your hand. Your opponent can only activate one spell or trap each turn. So it is really helpful because your opponent, if they go first, they're probably going to try and set up some sort of board, spells, traps, monsters. So they're probably going to have more than 4 cards. So you special summon that and then they can only activate one spell or trap each turn. So it's kind of helpful. General Raiho, as I call him. Or Raiho, whichever one you want to call him. Again, he's a card I haven't actually really used from this deck, but I'm unsure. And that's because when your opponent's monster's effect activated on the field resolves, they must discard one card or the effect is negated. Their choice. That's the thing. Most people are just going to discard a card to create a combo or a play. So, yeah, I'm unsure about him. Same as this one, Yugioh of the Ice Barrier. If this card is normal summoned or flip summoned, it is changed to defense position. You want him in defense, really, so yeah. Ice Barrier monsters you control cannot be destroyed by spells and traps. So it is kind of helpful against some things. Raigekis, Dark Holes, for an example, just stuff that gets rid of monsters. So he's kind of helpful. Dance Princess is a card I've tried using and I'm unsure. But once per turn, if you control another Ice Barrier monster, you can reveal any number of Ice Barrier monsters from your hand and target the equal number of set, spells and traps your opponent controls and return those to the hand. Now, if it was banished, it would probably be a lot better. But returning to the hand, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can disturb some stuff, but again, it's more of the fact that you're revealing what Ice Barriers you have in your hand. So it's an iffy one for me. Strategist of the Ice Barrier, very simple. Once per turn, send an Ice Barrier monster from your hand to the grave, draw a card. Very, very simple with him. Spellbreaker, once per turn you can send one Ice Barrier monster from your hand to the grave, and neither player can activate spell cards until the end of their next turn. Of your turn, sorry, while this monster is face up. The problem is with that is this deck is quite spell heavy. That's the downside to it. So if you've got, you know, your quick play spells set ready for if your opponent needs to do something, you're going to disrupt yourself. Warlock of the Ice Barrier. While you control another Ice Barrier monster, both players must set spells cards before activating them and cannot activate them until the next turn. It's same as Spellbreaker. If you have them on the field during the end of your setup, then yeah, it's not too bad because they have to set and then they can't activate them. You know, so yeah, it's one of those cards that might, you know, it could be helpful. So next up then, probably the best tuner out of this deck for me personally is Defender of the Ice Barrier. It's surprisingly good. While you control an advice by a monster, monsters your opponent controls cannot declare an attack if their attack is greater than or equal to this card's defense. Funny story, just quickly before we move on with Defender. An opponent I was facing on this tournament actually reduced his defense and attack to 0. So he couldn't attack even if he wanted to. And he didn't get rid of it. He was running Virtual World and he had like 2 True King of All Calamities, which I still think is going to be banned this next ban list, but it needs to. And he also had one of the Synchros out, and they were just doing, you know, he just went into his battle phase, and he then put on a message on the program we were using, why can't I attack? I was like, because you've reduced my monster's attack to 0. And he didn't realise that even if he didn't, he would have had to have 1,600 or less, 1,500 or less, which he didn't. So he still couldn't attack. But it was just funny the fact that he set his defense to 0, which is probably the worst thing you can do, because then nothing you have can attack. Unless it's got like, no, even if it had 0, sorry, because it's equal, even if it had 0, they still can't attack. So that was, it was kind of funny watching him do that. But yeah, I do like Defender. So just quickly then, apologies for the pause there. As I was saying, just quickly then, before I show you the next card, you probably already saw it, it's Cryo. A lot of people use this card. I personally haven't really tried him. But yeah, it's Cryo of the Ice Barrier. If you control an Ice Barrier monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. But then you can't special summon level 5 or higher monsters the turn you summon it this way. That's the thing. He gets a high-powered monster on the field, so you gun, what do you call them? Your 2 General Wayne, General Galatar, and General Gunnard, as I call him. But then you can't Synchro Summon, and this deck is really about Synchro Summoning. So it's not too bad if you can Xyz or if you can Link, but, you know, apart from that, you can't go into your main combos. So that's why I'm funny about him. I mean, yeah, you contribute this card, then target an Ice Barrier monster in the graveyard, and special summon that target. So he is kind of good for that. That's what I would probably try and use him for, as normal summon tribute, summon out a high-powered monster from the graveyard. But apart from that, so next up then we've got Cryo Manta of the Ice Barrier. Another tuner actually, but I don't use him. Because while you control the Ice Barrier, level 4 all monsters your opponent controls. Level 4 monsters cannot declare their attacks. So it's not just your opponent, it's you as well. And if you've only got a couple of monsters on the field, it's not going to be very helpful. Blizzard, very simple. Destroy a battle, you draw a card. And send to the grave, sorry. Should mention that. But it's level 1, and I actually do kind of like his artwork. I have to admit, I do like that artwork. So next up then, we've got Silent Angler. I probably won't use anything but Ice Barriers, because I like to sort of keep decks pure-ish. Maybe. I haven't decided yet. But Silent Angler, if you control a water monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. But you cannot special summon monsters from the hand for the rest of the turn. So it's pretty good. He's level 4, so he can help you make your synchros. This is a... I'm not even going to try and say his first name. But it's the Water Element Lord. So he can only be special summoned by... Well, he must be special summoned from the hand by having exactly 5 water monsters in your grave. I don't know what's going on with my voice. I apologise. If this card is special summoned, discard 2 random cards from your opponent's hand, or their entire hand if they've only got 1. So pretty good actually, because if you go first and get him out, you know, you can basically get rid of 2 cards in your opponent's hand, and it could be helpful. Excuse me. You can only use its effects once per turn. If this face-up card leaves the field, you skip your next battle phase. That's the downside to him. But he's alright. He's not half bad. Fishborg Launcher. Pretty much everyone knows what this does. It's been out for a while, if I'm not mistaken. But you can only Synchro Summon using him as a water. Like, you can only Synchro Summon a water type. These are all water. I don't know why you wouldn't put anything... Well, you might put something else in, but you'd use him for water. You know, your Trishulas, your Bionics, your Dolorans, your Gungnir's, whichever ones you want to run. If you have a monster in your graveyard other than Fishborg Launcher, and all of them were water, probably because it's a water-based deck, you can special summon this card from the graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. So it's not too bad, you do get a free summon. So next up then we've got Duke Frog and Ronan Toden. The only reason why I'm doing these both together is because everyone who plays this game has probably heard of Paleozoic frogs. Excuse me again. So pretty much everyone knows about frog type cards or Run and Toad because he's not actually a frog. You think they would have put Swap Frog in, but no, they put Run and Toad. But most people know what these do, like the combos and stuff, because you've probably seen the deck. So I'm not going to actually explain what to do because I don't run Paleozoic frogs and I hate frogs, like in general. They creep me out. Okay, frogs are weird. So next up then we've got Aqua Spirit. You can special summon it by banishing a water monster from your grave. Once per turn during your opponent's standby phase, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, change that monster's battle position. And if you do, it cannot change its battle position for the rest of the turn. Doesn't really help. You change the battle position, they're just probably going to link it, or exceed it. Gen X Undyne. If this card is normal summoned, you can send a water monster from your deck to the grave and add Gen X Controller, who's a level 3 tuner. So that's it then for the monsters. For the spells then, most of them, how to put it, most of them have been out for a while. There's only a couple of maybe one or two that are new to this. So first up then we've got Freezing Chain of the Iceberg, probably the second best spell card from this deck, just after Winds of the Ice Barrier. What it does is when this card is activated, you can target one level 4 or lower Ice Barrier monster from your graveyard and special summon it. When you control 3 or more Ice Barrier monsters you control are unaffected by the activated effects of your opponent's monsters that were special summoned from the extra deck. You can only use its effect once per turn. So it's kind of good because one of the plays I do with this is I activate Freezing Chains, go into my graveyard, bring back Revealer, I discard a card, summon Hexa Spirit, ditch Sujin, Synchro, go into DeLorean's effect, bounce that back to your hand. So next time, you can activate Freezing Chains again, return, do other stuff. There's also another play I do with DeLorean as well, which I'll get onto once I see it, and another YouTuber, a very friend of mine, he will probably watch this video when I finally get around to actually uploading it, because I don't think it's going to die like it did yesterday. He will probably say about the combo because it was him I did it against. Now, I'm not going to give any names, just to see if he does. If you're watching this, and you know who you are, and you don't comment about that loop, I'm coming for you, boy. Don't think I won't. So next up then, we've got Magic Triangle of the Ice Barrier. So you reveal 3 Ice Barrier monsters with different names from your hand, target one card your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, special summon an Ice Barrier. So it's an easy way to special summon. So next up then, we've got Medallion, a card that was out ages, and you add an Ice Barrier from your deck to your hand. Very simple. Mirror of the Ice Barrier is really, really fun to use, because during this turn, each time a card is banished from your hand, field, and or graveyard by your opponent's activated monster's effect, you can apply the following effects based on where the cards were banished from. So if it's your hand, you banish 2 from your hand, your opponent's hand. So they banish 1, you banish 2. Field, same again, they banish 1, you banish 2. And graveyard, again, they banish 1, you banish 2. So it's really, really helpful. We've got Salvage, which target 2 water monsters with 1500 less attack, add them to your hand. Surface, target a level 3 or lower fish, say, serpent or aqua, and special summon it from your graveyard. Where art thou? If you control a level 1 monster, add 1 level 1 monster from your deck to your hand. During the end phase this turn, take 2000 points of damage if you did not normal summon the added monster or a card with the same name after activating this card. So that's it then for the spells. The traps, I'll admit with the traps, I was a bit disappointed, to be honest with them. There's only maybe 2 or 3 traps in this I actually use, because there's just better ones out there. I mean, there's Infinite Impermanence, there's just better traps if you need to use them. So first thing then is Crackdown. This is the loop I was on about, because you can activate by targeting one face-up monster your opponent controls, take control of that monster, and while you control that monster, it cannot attack or activate its effects. Fine. When that monster leaves the field, destroy this card. Fine. What this loop was, is I managed to get 2 crackdowns on the field at the same time. I activated both of them. I took his Doom King from the Zombie World and his Eldritch the Golden Lord. Then I summoned DeLorean and looped the effect. So I got 4 cards back because it didn't actually say, you know, like, you can only target so many. No. I target all 4 of them. So I target both my Crackdown and both his monsters, returned them to his hand, returned Crackdown back to mine. He got a 2000 attack point boost, and then I reset the Crackdowns and just waited to do it again. So that was the loop I was on about. And I know he's probably going to watch it, and again, he cannot deny it wasn't good. It is actually really good. Now that DeLorean Tiger King and the Ice Barrier, it hopefully will be maybe semi-limited or unlimited, because it's a hard once per turn. You can't activate more than one of them. I've got a feeling that he might come back, and if so, the loop can continue. So that's the loop with Crackdown. It's a Terror of Trishula, probably the second best after Crackdown trap you get from this. Apply these effects in sequence depending on the number of Ice Barrier Synchro monsters you control with different names. 1, you banish 1 card your opponent controls. 2+, you banish 1 card from your opponent's graveyard. And 3, you banish 1 random card from your opponent's hand. It's basically Trishula in trap form. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets an Ice Barrier Synchro monster you control, you can manage this card from the graveyard and negate the effect. You can only use its effect once per turn. So it is really, really good. This is the trap I was on about. Iceberg. I kind of want to say that. Iceberg. If a non-water monster is normal or special summoned while you control a water monster, change that summoned monster to defense mode. This was the one I was on about with Speaker of the Ice Barrier, sorry. I'll just double check the name, I didn't want to get mixed up. But because I had her and this on the field and another Ice Barrier, every time my opponent summoned, they switched to defense. And they just couldn't attack or anything, and then they couldn't switch it back either because she was on the field. So it's kind of helpful. Heavy Storm Duster, you target 2 spell traps on the field, destroy them. Can't conduct your battle phase, fine, it's a trap, do it during your opponent. Appointer of the Red Lotus, pay 2000 life points and reveal your entire hand. Look at your opponent's hand and banish 1 card from their hand until your opponent's next end phase. There's better cards with this deck to get rid of it, to be honest. Fiendish Chain, I don't know. I get Freezing Chain, Fiendish Chain kind of sound, but why would they put this in? No one ever runs Fiendish Chain anymore. Yeah, I get the point of you can target effect monster and they get the effect, and you know it can't attack right face up. When it's destroy this card. But that's the thing, it's mediocre at best. Even I don't run it, and that's saying something. Mind Drain then is the last card from this. Activate this card by paying 1000 life points. Negate. Neither player can activate the effects of monsters in the hand. Surprisingly, this can work. Because you activate it, pay 1000 life points, your opponent can't activate hand traps. So stuff like Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, even little stuff like Phantasme, where it's like, oh, well, your opponent controls a Link monster, I can activate this card from my hand and special summon it. I'm not 100% sure if it wouldn't work, but I'm 70% sure they wouldn't be able to do that because it's activating from the hand. But hand traps like stuff like Ash Blossom, they can't use. So Mind Drain is actually quite helpful. So with that then, that is the opening for this video. I really hope you enjoy it. Like I said, I am planning to do a bit of an Ice Barrier deck because I actually kind of like them. Like I said, it's a fun casual deck profile I'm working on. It's no way meant to be like, the Ice Barriers are never going to be good. I managed to beat Virtual World with them. So they're better than what people expect. I think they're going to be quite underappreciated would be the word I'd use, because a lot of people think that Ice Barriers are still like they were before. They're not. They are going to be quite helpful. I know a lot of people are just going to run the cards in other decks. But, you know, me personally, I will be building this an Ice Barrier deck. because it's fun. And that's what I like about the game. You don't have to build a $400 or £500 pound, dollar, whatever currency you happen to be using. You don't have to build a massively expensive deck to enjoy the game. And that's what I like about it. I just like having fun. But that's me anyway. So with that, as I said, this is the end of the video. If you liked it, hit that like button for me. Comment down below what you think about this structure deck. What you think they could have done better, what they could have done worse. Cards you would have added. Just comment anything you want, because I don't mind. I will sit and read the comments. And if you want to, you can hit that subscribe button, because as I keep saying at the end of every video I try and do, once I hit 100 subscribers, I will be doing a giveaway. And then when I hit 200, I will be doing another. And so on and so forth. For every 100 subscribers I get, I will be doing giveaways. The more subscribers I get, the higher and better the giveaways are. You know, I'm not saying it just so you subscribe. I'm saying it as if you want to subscribe, so that I can start doing giveaways, that I can start doing other stuff. Then feel free to hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me if you did. So with that then, this is the end of the video. I hope you are all staying absolutely safe out there. Look after yourselves, and as always, take care. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye. Thank you very much.